Davy Jones. Davy came out of the back room after Elise had left with her hat box. Cliff glanced over at his partner in bemusement. "What is it, exactly, that you do not like about that girl?" he asked with some asperity. "Oh, I don't know," Davy replied, wandering over to the model car display. "She's just so quiet. You don't even know that she's there until she talks. It's just so eerie," he ended with a shudder. "Davy Jones," Cliff announced. "You are an idiot," punctuating each word with a poke to Davy's shoulder. "Ow!" Davy yelled, shrinking away from Cliff. "You didn't have to do that. I'm entitled to my own opinion. I don't have to explain myself to you. Or anyone else." "Oh, honey, I am so sorry. I am such a dolt. Of course you do. Please, will you forgive me?" Cliff leaned towards Davy, batting his eyelashes at him. "Oh, stop it," Davy snorted. "Of course I forgive you. I always do, don't I?" he added with a shrug. "Just so you know, you still hurt my feelings, though." He sniffed again and turned back to the display. "Why don't we have one of those Saturday neighborhood thingies again like we had last year, where the kids would come by, bring your car, show us what you got, anything, you know?" Davy looked entreatingly at Cliff. "I miss the kids. I miss their energy." Cliff reached over and pulled Davy into a hug, murmuring to him, "Of course you do, honey. You have such a heart for children. Why don't we see if the volunteer center is open at the Boys and Girls Club? You can set up a table with your model cars there. I bet they'd love it." Cliff gave Davy a long kiss. "What do you say? Shall we do it?" "Sure. Why not?" Davy said with a little smile. "Thanks for putting up with me." Cliff gave him another quick kiss and said, "Ditto, love," then walked back to the register as the phone started to ring. Davy watched his partner, admiring the slim flanks retreating in such form and symmetry. He was still a damn fine, good-looking man. Davy smiled to himself and went to the office, thinking about how he would set up a model car display area with workstations and places for the kids to work. His smile got a lot bigger as he sat down, pulling out paper and grabbing his favorite pen. From the outside in. By the time I'd pulled into the underground lot of my complex, I was back to feeling terrified. I managed to pull myself straight into my assigned space the first time, which was rather surprising, turned off the ignition and reached behind my seat for one of the extra shopping bags I always ended up with in the car. I carefully placed the hat box inside the bag, grabbed my purse and keys, and, remembering to lock the door manually before I shut it this time, headed into the building. I was both dreading and excited about having a closer look at what I had just brought home with me. Coat on coat rack, purse on back of kitchen chair, bag placed carefully on the floor. I plopped down on the couch and let my head fall back for a moment. I was exhausted. I felt like I'd just run a marathon. I really must be out of shape, I thought to myself, shaking my head. Not that I knew what running a marathon felt like, actually. I chuckled to myself and bent forward to pick the bag up, caught by surprise by how much heavier it felt now than when I had first set it down. "What the?" I said out loud, pulling the hat box out and tossing the bag aside in one irritated sweep. It was definitely heavier now. I could feel something that had weight inside of the box. I frowned and looked carefully at the exterior. It still looked the same. The grain matched so perfectly that I couldn't even really see where the lid stopped and the box began. I closed my eyes and ran my finger down the side and could feel, almost sense really, a seam maybe 3 inches or so from the top. I peered at what I could feel with my finger and still could not see a seam. I sighed in frustration and set the box down on the coffee table in front of me, staring at it as if I could will it to open for me. "Open says me," I said, rolling my eyes to the ceiling. "I am so glad I live alone," was my immediate thought. I shook my head. I really was losing my mind. I sighed and leaned forward, holding what I thought of as the lid gently between the outer edges of my palms. I closed my eyes and imagined myself back in the sanctuary, taking a deep breath and trying to feel the pillow I was sitting on, the rug beneath my feet. And as I lifted my hands, the lid came off smoothly. I nearly jumped off the couch. I had to half juggle to catch the lid as it started to fly out of my hands. My heart was pounding right out of my head and chest. There were white dots all over, and I sat back down on the couch hard, closing my eyes and breathing shallowly. I was going to be sick. I was crying. Breathe. Swallowing the bile down. Breathe. Okay. Okay. Nodding my head, I very slowly let my eyelids drift open. No hurry. Take my time. No problem. Blink away the tears, let the lid rest on my lap as I wiped my cheeks dry. I always hated the feeling of tears trickling down my face, chin, neck. Another breath. Swallowing a little bit easier this time. Now go ahead. Look. There it was, in full color, high definition reality. I was looking at the lens. For real. I blinked and just stared. About a foot, maybe a little bit longer in length. Looking a bit like an old telescope, except there didn't seem to be any kind of sliding mechanism, which made sense because there wasn't anything like that when I saw the lens in the White Room. I started to pick it up, but my hand was shaking so hard I reconsidered and leaned back again. I looked at the lid. Nothing remarkable there at all. It was nicely designed, lined in the same red felt as the interior of the box, which I was not looking at right now. I could look at the lid. The lid was safe. Nothing there that messed with my head. I could now see how the seam matched so well in the way the box had an inner lip that fit into the lid, allowing the whole thing to kind of jigsaw together. Very nice, I thought. I flipped the lid over and saw that it rested easily on that felt-covered edge, perfectly balanced and straight. I was surprised. I know wood has a tendency to warp at least a little bit just by its very nature, but the lid did not seem to be warped or anything. It made a perfect platform to rest something on. I shuddered away from where that thought was heading and knew it was time to take a look at the lens.